Hey guys, welcome back. We have another Blitz game coming today against Mr. Nishiank. We have the white pieces. It's a 3+2 time control. My goal now is to slightly increase my Blitz rating as it dropped a little bit in the last period of time. So to gain some ground, we're playing those Blitz games. This is the Rui Lopez, the Spanish. The pawn e4 is under attack. Rook e1 is the most common way to defend this pawn. So now he plays d6, which is the wrong move order. Black is supposed to play b5 first and then play the move d6. So I'm going to take advantage of that by playing the move c3. And now when he plays b5, I can go directly to c2 instead of going to b3 and then going to c2. Now h3 is an important prophylactic move in this kind of position, not to allow the enemy bishop to pin us with the move bishop g4. Okay, he's playing a little bit strangely. This move is very common after black plays b5, but to play it with my bishop still on a4 is not very common, and I will try to take advantage of that. Nice, so that's a regrouping type of move. Now he wants to be able to push his c-pawn forward. I will continue with knight d2, playing for this typical Spanish maneuver of knight f1, followed by either knight to g3 or knight to e3. So he strikes in the center with the move c5, which is sensible, but I want you to notice that my bishop is quite happily going to c2 in one move rather than two. Because if my bishop was on b3 right now, then I probably had to move it once again at some point after a move such as c4. So I want to continue my plan. Knight g3, now knight f5 is already a threat, that's why he played the move g6. Let's play a4. My threat is to take on b5. Yeah, so now to take on d5 doesn't make too much sense anymore, so I'll play, should I play d5 or should I, well, let's play d5. I think it's a good idea when his bishop is already facing this diagonal. I will play bishop e3. So all in all, it's a pretty standard position for the Rui Lopez. You might notice that it's move number 17 and there are still no captures whatsoever until this point, so it's a pretty close type of position. What I can tell you that White's main plan is at some point to play a rook a3 and double his rooks on the a file. For a reference, you can see a very famous game by Bobby Fischer versus Boris Spassky, not from their original 72 match, but from their rematch in the move 92. They had a less famous kind of rematch where Fischer still won, but both of them were already not at their peak. Still, they managed to produce some very good games. One of them had very similar position to this one, where Fischer played the move rook to a1, and then he followed it up by rook a2, queen c1, and then queen a1, kind of taking a full control over the a file by all means. By all means. Notice that I'm not actually taking on b5 at any point because I want to kind of keep it flexible. And now he takes on a4, which usually it's a problematic decision because he's slightly spoiling up his own pawn structure. But how can I take advantage of that? So I don't think I can take on a4. I mean, I can, but my e4 pawn might be hanging. But I'm not in any rush to take this pawn. I think I'll play queen e2. So the idea is to put pressure on the pawn on c4, but also it enables me to play the maneuver knight d2 and knight c4. And basically white is very happy, if he can, to take all of black's pawns on the queen side, which are now separated from each other. So instead the move pawn takes a4, which he did, a normal move would be rook to b8. The idea is to try to maintain this pawn on b5 when white tries to capture it. So I don't really like his decision to take on a4, but the one good thing that he does get is this square for the knight. So if he plays knight b3 right now, I would probably be forced to play rook to a2, because I need to maintain pressure on the pawn on a4, because at some point I do want to take it. So if I were him at this point, I would probably consider a move like knight to d7 with the idea to maneuver it to b6. Notice that his knight is not doing too much on his current square. He plays rook to c8. Can I just take on c4? Is there anything wrong with that? I don't see what is wrong with that, so I think I'll just do that. That's a pretty important pawn, because later on my pawns can be very mobile. Queen b6, hitting my pawn on b2. I'm slightly low on time. Let's try to increase the pace a little bit. Let's play rook a2, just defending my pawn. His knight cannot really move because he's pinned to this pawn. I still need to capture the pawn on a4, so it's still not so easy. I don't like his rook c8 move so much that he made. I think at some point he should have played bishop to c8 with the idea to reshuffle the bishop to d7, because that's the proper square for this bishop. It doesn't really have a future with those two pawns. Queen d8. I think I'll just retreat my queen. She doesn't have anything to do on c4 anymore now that she kind of finished capturing the pawn. Once again, I'm not in any rush to capture the pawn on a4. I want to improve my position first, protect my pawn on e4. Probably now it's a good time to take this pawn. I am giving up my two bishops, but in such a position there's no huge meaning for this. So he forfeits on time. I think the final position is very difficult for black. Let's make a short analysis. So this position is very common in opening theory. b5 is the absolute main move. You can see I can even open up the opening database. I hope you can see that the move b5 has been played hundreds of thousands of times. The move d6 is much less common. Yeah, and after c3, castles, well, basically we got a very common position, but with a full tempo up for white, because if you remember at some point I managed to play this move bishop c2 in one go. But the game, even though white has a pawn up, continued to be pretty normal. I would say that he did everything pretty good. The first decision, which I would say is slightly problematic, is to capture that pawn on a4. So in this position, the engine says that white is slightly better, kind of. I think it's logical because he lost one tempo. And also, you know, white usually has this small advantage in the opening of having the first move. So a 0.5 or 0.6 advantage seems to be correct. But after the move pawn takes a4, you see he immediately drops his evaluation and says that white is much better already, with the move queen e2 that I made being the best move. So just to illustrate, if I take on a4 immediately, then this pawn might be hanging. I'm still not sure if it can take it or not, but I just have no reason basically to hurry with this move. So queen e2, and yeah, this position is probably, as the engine confirms, already not very good for black, because it's difficult for him to maintain all of his weak pawns, and white is slowly but surely will capture all of those pawns, which actually happened in the game. Rook c8 I think was not so good, and in a couple of moves white took on a4. So in the final position he ran out of time, but a plan for white for the future would be to slowly push those pawns forward. You see that white had a very big majority on the queen side. Those pawns can start moving with all of the white's pieces supporting them. So the next moves could be c4, b4, then perhaps c5, knight c4. Those pawns will slowly overrun black's position. So the evaluation of the engine in the final position is almost +3 for white, even though he's only one pawn up, because black's position is also very passive and he cannot do too much to stop white's pawns from expanding forward. So once again, pretty good game there. I hope in the next video I could play against somebody slightly higher rated than this. Still, I hope you enjoyed this game and learned something about those Ruy Lopez Spanish type of structures. And I'll see you guys in the next videos. Don't forget to make some comments about the video, if you like the format, what kind of other things you would like to see, what do you think about the game, and of course, subscribe to the channel. I will try to upload more frequently, but definitely subscribing and reading your comments gives me a great deal of motivation. So thank you guys. See you.